joined by Robert Olds, the director of the Eurosceptic think tank, the Bruges Group. Robert, thank you for joining me. Was it always a bad idea for Britain to join the EU?
Absolutely. If Britain hadn't joined the European Union, we'd have probably negotiated a free trade agreement where we wouldn't be so burdened by excessive EU regulation, nor would we have to be paying billions of pounds each year to the EU like we do at present to remain a member of the European Union to access the single market. Britain can have free trade with the European Union without being an EU member. That's what we should have explored. We should be also taking advantage of the trade opportunities that exist around the rest of the world rather than being burdened by the EU's customs union.
What would you say are the main disadvantages of Britain being in the EU?
Well, one of the main points is, of course, democratic accountability. At the moment, in the European Union, 50% of our new laws, according to a House of Commons report, come from the European Union. Now, these are often excessively regulatory. It adds a burden onto the economy. There's also the tax issue as well, and also being inside the customs union and the common agricultural policy and the common fisheries policy, EU rules actually harm British producers and British consumers who would have to pay higher for their goods in terms of agriculture and of course all imports from around the world because of EU policies and their protectionist customs union.
Do you acknowledge any advantages of Britain being in the EU?
In terms of trade, there is a small advantage in that, of course, we are inside the customs union, and of course if an exporter wants to send its goods to another member state in the EU, there's actually less red tape because in a sense we are one trade area. But of course that's really a small benefit compared to the costs of the European Union, which are indeed much greater.
Why do you think there's so much support for a reformed version of membership with the EU to continue?
Well, at the moment, according to the opinion polls, most people would actually vote to leave. If there was a referendum, there'd be more people voting to leave the EU than, of course, would support staying in. That's been clearly stated in many opinion polls over a number of years. What happens in a referendum is, of course, we'd have to wait and see. In my opinion, the EU is unreformable. It cannot change to what Britain wants. It cannot radically give powers back to member states. It cannot be a significant renegotiation which will change Britain's relationship with the European Union. That's just not feasible.
Is the free movement of labour in the EU essential for underpinning the single market?
Some people think it is economically important. I'd actually argue that having a situation where people can move from one member state to another could actually harm the member state in which they're moving from. If there's an economic crisis in, say for instance, a part of Europe and then people leave that area, that doesn't actually help the economy to grow. What we're seeing is the best and the brightest are leaving countries such as Spain and Greece, coming to Northern Europe to do what? To work in a coffee shop, to serve wealthy people goods. They may have very high quality of education, but these people are often highly motivated, very hard working and well educated. So actually the free movement of persons will of course benefit businesses in Northern Europe who then get access to well motivated, hard working and cheaper labour, because if you increase the supply of labour then of course the cost of it will naturally fall. Does it actually help countries that are struggling economically? Perhaps it doesn't.